New York City, a melting pot of ideas and ambition. Join us as we explore cutting-edge innovations and the passionate minds behind them, all set against the most vibrant backdrop in the world. This is NYC Innovates.
Hey everyone, welcome to NYC Innovates. I'm Chris Castellino. In today's episode, we'll be exploring how some iconic New York City institutions are paving the way forward, starting with food.
And there's no better place to experience culinary innovation than 11 Madison Park. Take this staircase within the dining room of New York's 11 Madison Park, and you'll discover this iconic restaurant's bold new venture, Clemente Bar, an intimate cocktail space where mixology meets artistic expression, and The Studio, the interactive chef's tasting counter that stays true to the kitchen's plant-based ethos. For over 25 years, 11 Madison Park has been a New York City culinary destination. Under the vision and leadership of chef and restaurateur Daniel Hume, this innovative restaurant earned its third Michelin star in 2012 and was ranked the #1 restaurant in the world on the World's 50 Best list in 2017. After reopening its doors post-pandemic in 2021, Hume made the groundbreaking decision to transition to an entirely plant-based menu, a move that shocked the industry. So joined by beverage director Sebastian Tolias and Clemente Bar's manager Richie Millwater, I booked a coveted reservation to explore how Clemente Bar and The Studio are reimagining what's possible in the plant-forward and sustainable food space, and of course, experience some theatrical flair.
The restaurant downstairs is a gem. It's a staple to, the industry, to New York. To just create an extension of 11 Madison Park didn't make sense. It had to be special. It had to be something that we were really doing intentionally to drive kind of this excitement towards this space, especially given that it's in the same building.
Clemente Bar takes its name from renowned Italian artist Francesco Clemente, whose vibrant artwork adorns the walls of the lounge.
When we were talking about creating a bar in this space, we were looking at different options of how we wanted to create its own identity. To be able to do something that's unique but also timeless, and to be able to represent a specific space through somebody's vision, through art, is really special.
What truly sets Clemente Bar apart is its commitment to innovation. The beverage program took approximately 1 year in research and development and features cocktails that push the boundaries of traditional mixology.
We started off with close to 30 drinks that we put on paper. My plan always to go into R&D is to always really have a structure, understand where we're trying to go, not going into it blindly, because then if you don't have that plan, you're really kind of just losing track of what you're really trying to achieve with the menu.
This collaborative process extends beyond just the bar team. Tolias and Millwater worked closely with 11 Madison Park's kitchen, especially the expert pastry staff, to develop unique flavors and techniques.
Richie and I do all the production for the bar, and when we can talk to the kitchen, that's obviously, we're the first people to be there. Pastry is usually the first persons that we go to, and they are probably annoyed at us at points by the amount of questions we ask, and they probably even think it's cute. Oh, look, cute bartender's trying to bake. We make it happen though, and I think we've done a really good job. Obviously, we've learned a lot from the kitchen team, and that's kind of been the best and most exciting part about working here. It's really where I've developed my palate. So to be able to rely on the chefs and their palates and their knowledge is incredibly helpful too.
One of the most distinctive aspects of Clemente Bar is its emphasis on fermentation and upcycling discarded food byproducts, transforming them into complex, flavorful ingredients.
For our bar program, sustainability is actually really, really high up in the focus of it. We try to take the byproducts of the kitchen. One cocktail, for example, up here, we took a lot of the extra plantains. So we noticed that the kitchen was throwing out all the skins. We took all the byproducts, so anything that was bruised, any of the skins, and we dehydrated that, mixed it with some German barley malt from a brewer, and then turned that into a miso. So by being sustainable in that way, we can really unlock different flavors with time and texture.
One unique standout is the Real Talk, a coffee whiskey cocktail featuring a unique ingredient, pretzel miso.
Miso is one of the foundations of our bar program. So we actually take pretzel powder, so we blend up pretzels, mixing it with salts, koji, and water into a paste. And we let that one ferment for 2 weeks. After that, we mix it with some demerara sugar. That one we're using Kings County coffee bourbon. So they actually proof it down with cold brew. So Amontillado sherry is also there to dry it out, and then amazake, which means like sweet rice in Japanese. So we ferment that for 16 hours, freeze it, and then strain it to make it completely clear. So you have the coffee notes, the dryness from the sherry, and then the savoriness from both the amazake and the pretzel miso that make it a really intricate cocktail.
Beyond the lounge, Clemente Bar also features a more intimate experience called The Studio, an omakase-style dining space where guests can enjoy a tasting menu prepared right before their eyes.
The 9C tasting counter is a 5-course menu which is meant to be paired with cocktails. So it's essentially, you see the bartender and the chef prepare everything in front of you, and it's really about bringing the craft back to the forefront of the experience.
We're very proud of this menu, and we're very happy to have you with us. And our ideal version of this is a very social experience. So please resist the urge, if you feel it, to sit and observe in respectful silence while we quietly and diligently work away at things.
The menu celebrates vegetables and plant-based ingredients on their own terms. My dishes included pickled daikon, prepared 3 ways, leek tempura with wasabi aioli, an agadeshi tofu hand roll, maitake mushroom and seitan skewers, and a main dish of house-made buckwheat soba noodles with Thai basil and sesame. Bartender Sean Scahill creates an inventive array of cocktails using a variety of techniques, including a clarification method called milk punching. The 2-hour meal was finished off with a refreshing mango sticky rice sundae. Despite the absence of meat, the experience was filled with a range of bold flavors and extremely satisfying.
For us, it's been really important to be able to showcase what we're able to do with plants, and I think to some degree, it's come to the point where you're having an experience that you don't even realize that there is no animal products. And I think that's the biggest goal for me, is like, you go to a bar, you have cocktails, bites, and then you leave and you're like, wait a minute, there was no animal product in that whatsoever. And it's not about having that be the main part of the conversation. It's about being able to create these experiences where you don't necessarily have to think about that.
One of the most creative aspects of the beverage program is their approach to spirit-free offerings.
Just because a guest doesn't want to drink alcohol doesn't mean that their experience should be a lesser than experience. So at 11 Madison Park, we actually have non-alcoholic cocktail pairings. We have 5 non-alcoholic cocktails, and we wanted to bring that same ethos up here. So at the studio, we're actually offering non-alcoholic pairings as well. We even have a NA martini, which is really difficult to make. We're using gentian and lemon peels to infuse into seedlip to give it that kind of bitter mouthfeel, but also that bright and refreshing tones.
The menus at both Clemente Bar and the studio continue to evolve organically, rather than adhering to a strict seasonal schedule. As in EMP's main dining room, the bar team has the freedom to introduce new creations whenever inspiration strikes.
I think kind of the organic nature of what this bar can be, it's like, nothing is safe. It's, you might have the best cocktail that you've ever had last week, but next week it's gone and that's your new favorite cocktail. So I think that's kind of the exciting part of what we can do up here too.
Beyond their technical achievements, the team at Clemente Bar are focused on creating a warm, welcoming atmosphere designed to be experienced and enjoyed by everyone.
I think kind of the beauty of when you're walking through 11 Madison Park and up the stairs, you're almost walking into a little bit of an unknown. You're walking down this dark hallway. On your left, you have a cabinet filled with some really, really special spirits. And then you hear the music just around the corner, and as soon as you turn a corner, you have the bar to your right, and the dining room, and the lounge room right to your left, and it's full of energy. I think that's kind of the exciting part of coming in and walking up for the first time, and really just discovering that too.
Both Clemente Bar and the studio represents a new chapter for Chef Daniel Hume and 11 Madison Park. One that honors the restaurant's tradition of excellence and innovation and reinforces their commitment to sustainability. Coming up, how this independent music venue has survived for over 15 years.
Hey everyone, welcome back to NYC Innovates. I'm Chris Castellino. The New York City music scene has cultivated some of the world's greatest artists. However, over the past several decades, many of these historic music venues have closed their doors. So in my next segment, I check out New York's Le Poisson Rouge.
We'll find out how this music venue has operated independently for over 15 years. In the heart of New York's Greenwich Village, where storied music venues once hosted the likes of Jimi Hendrix and Miles Davis, stands Le Poisson Rouge, also known as LPR. For over 15 years, this independent music venue has been nurturing New York City's diverse musical landscape, hosting everyone from Lady Gaga to Tom York, and launching the careers of today's biggest artists. While entertainment industry giants like Live Nation and AEG continue to dominate performance spaces across the country, how does LPR survive and thrive in a time where many independent venues have shut its doors? I took an exclusive look inside one of New York City's last standing cultural institutions to find out. Located on Bleecker Street, this 10,000 square foot space occupies the former home of the legendary nightclub Village Gate, where musical icons like singer-songwriter Nina Simone once performed. In 2008, the Village Gate was reborn as Le Poisson Rouge, under the vision of co-founder David Handler.
I started playing the violin when I was 3 and started composing music not too long after that.
Handler attended Manhattan School of Music, immersing himself in the classical tradition. But throughout his education, he felt something was missing in the musician community, a sentiment that would eventually inspire LPR.
In many ways, LPR is an expression of what I found missing in my education. There you had composition majors that were not really relating to performance majors, and jazz majors not really, finding common ground with the opera department or something. And so there was more division, more, pressure and competition than I felt necessary.
With no previous experience in venue management or event promotion, Handler embarked on a 2-year search for the perfect venue to realize his vision. Handler says the discovery of the available space felt serendipitous.
I knew that I wanted a space that was large enough where we could host nationally and internationally touring artists, but not one that was so big where we couldn't take chances. I was raised on the Nina Simone recording live at the Village Gate. To find out that this was that location, which I didn't realize until I actually showed up that morning, and we still have the landmark sign out front.
What sets Le Poisson Rouge apart is its deliberately eclectic programming philosophy, a stark contrast to the genre-specific venues that dominated New York's music scene when LPR opened in 2008.
What I set out to do with LPR, I think, was missing at the time. We were really looking to create a culture club where there would be visual art represented, spoken word stuff, that the music would be really far reaching and really omnivorous. So, you had a lot of clubs that had an identity that they were so wed to. You wound up having to go to a certain venue for a certain type of music. There was not so much the place where you could hear anyone from like Yo-Yo Ma to then like a punk rock group.
LPR hosts approximately 300 shows annually in its main space.
We had some major name soloists that were getting paid who knows what at Carnegie Hall, playing for the door here, because it was a way to reach that audience that they otherwise might not.
Over time, the venue's reputation grew, attracting major label artists looking for intimate performance spaces.
Back to Charlie XCX, to Mumford & Sons, Lady Gaga, a lot of big names just wanting to play the room if they were going to do an absurd underplay. I remember like Tom York in here and Iggy Pop and Philip Glass, like some, heavy hitters that would just not belong in an 800 cap room. But when they wanted to make a statement and play a club show, it was like, this is the musician's room.
In recent years, the live music industry has undergone massive consolidation. Live Nation and AEG now control more than 60 of the top 100 venues in the US and over 265 venues across North America. However, Le Poisson Rouge has remained fiercely independent, a decision Handler says is fundamental to their identity.
Consolidation hurts diversity, right? It's just true. And diversity is essential in the music industry as it is everywhere else. And yet it's not always protected the way that it could be or the way that I think that it should be. For us, it's really all about fostering that relationship between artist and audience. And we can do that at the top of the funnel from the ticket stage all the way through the in-person night of experience. If we can do that without that relationship getting leveraged by big box conglomerates, then we're doing our job as independents. How an artist sounds and looks is of utmost importance. I used to joke that if I had to put all the money that I had raised into sound and lights and just paint the place black, then so be it. And as anybody knows who's been in this room over the past decade and a half, it's just a black box, but it sounds and looks amazing.
To achieve this sound quality, Handler collaborated with renowned acoustician John Storick, who designed Electric Lady Studios for Jimi Hendrix.
I went into his office and, he could have just laughed me out of the room. He was really interested in bringing what was the Village Gate space back to life. I told him that, this was a chance for him to kind of flex his muscle as an acoustician to create a space that would work for opera singers and for like doom metal, at the same time.
Remarkably, one of LPR's greatest strengths is the trust that they've built with their audience. Many attendees will arrive without even knowing the artist performing, simply trusting LPR's curation.
That is something that we take very seriously, and then, which is to say, cultivating the trust that it takes for a regular at LPR to just know what they're going to get in whatever genre they're coming to is going to be really thought out, and that artist is going to look and sound their best, and it's probably going to be something that challenges their standard fare of what they've been listening to. And if you can have on one line somebody who's traveled from like Brazil to hear an artist that rarely plays and we managed to convince to play the room, and then right next to that person online could be somebody who's like, I have no idea what I'm about to walk into, but if it's at LPR, I can trust that it's going to be of a high quality.
Looking towards the future, Le Poisson Rouge is now expanding its footprint beyond Greenwich Village through LPR Presents.
LPR Presents is now starting to put its flag in the sand at a lot of different venues and some different cities. We have a cool partnership working at the Miami Beach Band Shell.
As Le Poisson Rouge enters its next chapter, Handler's message to New Yorkers and music lovers everywhere is not to take independent venues for granted.
It's really easy to take for granted the experiences that make it worth living in New York. Some of those reasons are not manifesting the way that they used to, and they're slipping away or they're becoming diluted. Your regular involvement is integral. It is not just for yourself that you're nourishing when you go to a live show, but also the place that makes it possible.
LPR represents more than just a successful business venture. It's the culmination of a lifelong passion for music and community.
The whole thing is just such a gift. The fact that we can do this together and that we have a passion for something that we can leave a mark in a city like this, at a time like this, for a decade and a half, the whole thing is it's a real privilege.
In an industry increasingly dominated by corporate giants, Le Poisson Rouge stands as a testament to the enduring power of independent venues. Spaces where artistic vision, community, and musical diversity can flourish on their own terms. Coming up, this Brooklyn startup says they've unlocked the future of sustainable energy.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to NYC Innovates. I'm Chris Castellino. In my last segment, we'll be looking at the future of fuel with green tech startup Air Company.
Here's how they're converting carbon dioxide into new sustainable products. Inside Bushwick, Brooklyn's industrial warehouse district, One Carbon Technology Company is transforming Earth's biggest environmental challenge into sustainable solutions. Air Company, founded in 2017, has developed groundbreaking methods that convert carbon dioxide into valuable products, from aviation fuel to vodka.
We've been built for the premise of taking CO2, one of the most abundant greenhouse gases on planet Earth, and taking that carbon dioxide and utilizing it to create industrial fuels and chemicals to help shape our future.
The company's journey began with a bold vision, merging creativity with technology to tackle climate change. Their Brooklyn facility, known as the Air Technology Center, serves as their headquarters for innovation.
A lot of the R&D, a lot of the pilot scale development happens here in this facility. What you'll see throughout the space is CO2 and hydrogen are the core inputs to what we do.
But how exactly does this technology work? Konstantin says Air Company's proprietary reactor system was developed to mimic nature itself.
The very premise of our technology has been off the back of mimicking photosynthesis, which is doing exactly what a tree does, only faster and more efficient, right? You're taking in CO2 and you're using the sun's energy in order to put out oxygen. We're agnostic on the source of CO2, so we can take the source of carbon dioxide from anywhere. So you'll see our electrolyzers that are in the space. This is what creates hydrogen from water and electricity. Once that hydrogen from these electrolyzers is fed into our large-scale reactor, along with the CO2 that comes directly from this tank, that hydrogen and CO2 combines with our catalysts inside these reactors as part of the entire air-made process to produce some of the chemicals and e-fuels that create our eventual products.
Air Company's innovation first caught public attention with an unexpected product, vodka. In 2019, they launched the world's first vodka made from carbon dioxide, which earned Time Magazine's Invention of the Year. But this was just the beginning.
We've had a really interesting company kind of trajectory, I would say, because we started off the business as a technology company, but selling B2C products so that we could monetize our research and development. So the first consumer-based products that we created was a beverage product, a vodka, made from this technology, as well as things like a hand sanitizer that we put out during the pandemic and a perfume.
Today, the company's primary focus is on sustainable aviation fuel, partnering with major airlines and even the U.S. Department of Defense.
We've got some incredible partners in the aviation space, everyone from Air Canada to Virgin Atlantic to JetBlue, who are also an investor of ours. We actually flew the first ever plane on a CO2-derived fuel with the U.S. Department of Defense, the Air Force. Yeah, several years ago, we actually fueled a small unmanned plane with a 100% drop-in fuel. The fuel burns exactly the same as traditional jet fuel.
Their success has attracted substantial investments. To date, Air Company has raised over $110 million. Notable investors include car manufacturers like Toyota, highlighting the broad potential applications of their products.
The ability to see inside a 5,000 square foot facility like this is the ability to deploy smaller pieces of modular technology that can allow for scale up, as well as do testing in an environment like this. Typically, a facility of this size could have the ability to produce, thousands of gallons a month.
While current production costs exceed traditional fossil fuels, Air Company is focused on scaling their technology to make it cost competitive.
The goal over the next 3 to 5 years to scale globally, not just in the US, but to countries around the world. That demand for our technology, but for our end product is almost endless.
By the end of this decade, Air Company aims to produce tens, if not hundreds of millions of gallons of sustainable fuel per year. Perhaps most compelling is their vision for energy independence.
A really important aspect into why people should care about purchasing products that have been made by feedstocks such as CO2 is that these feedstocks are abundant. When you're creating a fuel that's made from fossil-based fuels, over the course of time, those feedstocks will dry up and they will continue to hurt our planet, but they don't allow us to be secure in our sources of energy. CO2 is everywhere, and we have the ability to produce at any level of scale because of that feedstock, and it's something that is going to propel humanity forward ahead into our future.
Well, that's it for today's episode of NYC Innovates. I hope you've enjoyed exploring some of New York's most exciting game changers. For Cheddar, I'm Chris Castellino. We'll catch you next time.